Honest J. Nowak. Coming at you live. Alright. A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Honest J. Nowak. And today, we're going to be getting it on with quite a lot of new things around here. Plenty of new subjects to talk about. And quite a lot of new material that I will in fact be able to get from here on out. And so, tons of ideas I've been able to span as much as possible just so I can keep the series going. But today, let's go ahead and talk a bit about something different. Lore. Now, lore, which is a common shortened variation of the word folklore, is in fact a pretty big deal to most of us. Because there are times where we cannot necessarily seem to understand a lot of things at a contextual level. Some things out there may not seem compelling, coherent, or corrigible, but when you really get down to it, movies, novels, video games, comics, television programs, and game shows, they do have a lot of things to tell us. But when you look at the internet, you can find a lot of amazing stuff out there. Lore is in fact one of the biggest aspects about today's society. Because there can always be a point in time where you might be able to find an article online about how certain things take place within the confines of the fictional universe. And the fictional universe is one gigantic place to be in. And a lot of people out there seem to really take it as a big step into understanding how it feels so real within the mind, but maybe not so real elsewhere. To understand the difference between fiction and reality can seem simple, but when you really take a look at the many articles, especially the ones on the likes of the fandom website, which is in fact a page specifically designed to harbor whatever kind of lore that anybody can put in. No matter the article, no matter the show, the movie, the game, or otherwise, any kind of media that wants to be introduced to the fandom website in a particular way by a certain fan or by a certain group of people who know about this, they can put in whatever kind of article they feel like. Anybody can in fact go as far as to do some simple coding by just simply typing on the keyboard and simply clicking on a post button of some sorts. A published article of any sorts can show up anywhere you please. The fandom website so far has pretty much been responsible for a lot of different stories and a lot of different ways to explain the many parts relating to fiction within the confines of most different franchises. Franchises of all sorts. Transformers, Toy Story, Ghostbusters, Jaws, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, My Little Pony, Rick and Morty, Family Guy, and so much more. There's really a lot of franchises out there that have made their way onto the fandom website because of certain things that people could not necessarily understand. And a lot of hardcore fans were willing to put up whatever kind of info they could find in relation to whatever kind of subject is on the matter. And when you really get down to it though, there's really a lot of things that you can learn from these different sites. Fandom sure has pretty much the biggest library possible to be able to find whatever kind of knowledge and info that you'll need to obtain, in case you feel curious about it or if it's something that you might be required to do for a school project or otherwise. The way I've seen it, I can definitely remember the many times that I've looked at the various fandom articles relating to the Toy Story universe. Like in the case where there actually were a few times where some projects had actually been canceled. As a matter of fact, I was able to find out myself that Toy Story 3 actually was scheduled for release in early 2005, but had apparently been cut, canceled, mid-production. And all because of the closure of Circle 7 Animation Studios, which Disney and Pixar had partnered up with years prior to these kind of projects. There was also supposedly a Monsters, Inc. sequel that would pretty much take place in the human world, of course, many decades later, where Boo would be on a deathbed pretty much, and Sully would pretty much come to visit right before then. So, I mean, that's just a few examples of the many, many things that people have actually managed to find out. Lots of seekers like myself are willing to know whatever kind of info we can get our hands on. As long as executive producers and directors continue to put up their info of all sorts out there for the public eye to see, then that's what keeps things interesting, because there could be a time, in fact, where you might actually be able to find this kind of stuff. Probably the best kind of lore that I was able to find of all things relating to fandom articles on the fandom wiki page website was the fact that I was able to find a specific wiki page relating to the Acceleracers and a specific wiki page relating to The Last of Us Part 2, which of course is the sequel to The Last of Us from 2013. But the thing is that when discussing those in particular, a lot of the lore that I was able to find out was not necessarily from the fandom wiki page, but through several different videos on YouTube. But I did eventually get around to actually finding these kind of articles, just as a way to find out what kind of citations these people were getting their info from. And sure enough, that's exactly what I came across. Various users of all sorts had a lot of citations put up in the form of hyperlinks, which of course are the different things that are parenthetically labeled by usage of a certain highlighted color. And clicking on them will take you to these certain sites, which of course are the sources of these different info that they have managed to obtain. The fandom wiki pages, however, anything else that people could find out, they can put it out there on the wiki pages for everybody to see. And they could find these links and then go straight on over to these other pages that these info bringers have pretty much given us. I mean, there's a lot of different ways nowadays that you can actually find these certain things, and overall, it's quite an adventure. It's like really getting to put your mind together, yet you cannot necessarily rely on just one thing out there. There's a lot of info that you can find. It's so interesting that, well, I myself am one day willing to put up my own specific wiki page relating to Kaiju Force Neo related productions, especially with all the films, documentaries, and web series that I put up over the years. And so, when that time does come, I sure am hoping that someday that might actually take place. But the whole thing is, I don't necessarily have all the coding skills that I'm ever going to need, or the kind of hacking that will need to be put into place. But assuming one day that somebody does truly recognize my work, they could probably help create a fandom wiki page specifically about my work. And maybe there will be an entire page dedicated to me and my lifestyle and the whole thing that I've been having over the years. I mean, it's a huge dream of mine. One of many different things I hope to accomplish in the future. But until any of that happens, I guess I don't have a whole lot to offer or to say about that kind of stuff. So if you want to see more, go down to my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.